This is the 415ers podcast, as always, on the Odyssey Sports Podcast Network. That is Marc Grandi. I am Evan Giddings. Please download, rate, subscribe. Check it out on the Odyssey app, as well as wherever you download your podcast from. We're coming at you twice a week in the off season. Remember, you're hearing this on Tuesday. Our next episode will be on Friday this week when we dig into the schedule that will be revealed a little bit later on Thursday. So that's the reason for pushing it back a day. All right, well, let's get into the comments that I think actually are probably the reason why this was a conversation in the first place. And that is because local 49ers beat writer and reporter for NBC Sports Bay Area, Matt Maiocco, very well revered, renowned, has been doing this for a long time, called Sam Darnold on a local show last Thursday, quote, the most talented thrower of the football maybe the Niners have ever had. Now, I know that he clarified his statements in a column, I think the day after that, Mark. But whereas the eyebrows were raised for Orlovsky's comments, I almost ripped my eyebrows out when I heard this quote. And again, I defer to Matt Maiocco. The man has known what he's talking about for a very long time. I read everything and consume as much content as I can because he is in the know. But this, frankly put, I did not know where this came from.
Me neither. I was shocked. I was dumbfounded. I wish I had like a recording of my face as I saw this tweet like on my profile because I think my jaw literally hit the floor, and not in like a, oh my God, I'm so excited way, like in a, oh my God, what the hell did I just read kind of way, because this is just utterly ridiculous. And again, nothing but respect for Matt Maiocco. Everything you said is totally right. I mean, I grew up in the North Bay, in Sonoma County. He was a longtime beat reporter for the 49ers at the Santa Rosa Press-Democrat. Would wake up every morning in football season and throughout the entire year and read him in my local paper about the 49ers. And he was like my go-to source for 49ers stuff for much of my childhood. So nothing but love for Matt Maiocco. But that is an absolutely wild statement for a franchise that has perhaps the best quarterback of all time. I know there's a lot of people out there that think that, but at worst, the second best quarterback of all time in Joe Montana. Steve Young, who had one of the best arms in football history. And there are even more recent quarterbacks who did not quite reach Hall of Fame levels, who probably have a more talented arm than Sam Darnold. And I know there's a little bit perhaps of a disconnect in what Maiocco meant and how people are interpreting it. Like, he has the best arm talent. He can throw the ball the furthest. Like, he's the best quarterback. He can make all the throws on the field. Like, these all mean slightly different things. So I think it's probably just a little bit lost in translation here. But it was an insane comment. And what gets me a little worried, Evan, I know it's something you and I talked a little bit off air. Matt Maiocco, you're right, is totally in the know. He kind of seems to be the 49ers preferred media member, it seems like. Part of the reason why is he's earned that. He's been around the team and the franchise for a very long time. But generally, he is the guy who is, I don't know if mouthpiece is the right word, but he's the guy who oftentimes gets fed things the 49ers want out there, and then he puts it out there. I'm not saying that the 49ers are, in any way telling Matt Maiocco to talk up Sam Darnold, but oftentimes he is the guy who puts things out to the public that the 49ers do not want to put out themselves, but they do want out there. And that's what has me a little bit worried. Do the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, do they actually believe that Sam Darnold might be the most talented thrower of the football in their franchise's history? That's not an important question. Maybe they feel that way, just that he's the most talented thrower of the football on their current roster. Even then, I'm a little worried because of everything we just talked about earlier. So this comment caught my eyes. I was dumbfounded, and then I got to thinking about it, and I'm a little bit worried about what it might mean about how the 49ers feel about Sam Darnold.
I'd be more worried about what it means for how the 49ers feel about Trey Lance.
Because, that too. Yeah.
Like, if you're talking about, talent, like, these are all the superlatives, I feel like, used for, raw, physical, relatively unproven talent. And look, a lot of it was based on the fact that Sam Darnold has not been in a position such as the 49ers to have continued success. He hasn't played with the weapons. He hasn't played with the defense. I get all that. But that same case can be made for a lot of quarterbacks, and especially a lot of young quarterbacks. Sam Darnold, around the age of 25. So if we're looking at guys from the first round that have been recently drafted, would you say Baker Mayfield would look better in this offense than he has in previous ones?
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah.
Josh Rosen, would he look better in the 49ers offense than the one that he was drafted to, in which he only lasted 1 year, by the way?
Probably. I'm a little less confident in that one because he was even worse than Baker Mayfield.
That's fine. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. 2019 first round class. Kyler Murray would probably look pretty good in this offense right now, especially given his talent in throwing the football. Daniel Jones, we didn't know that he was actually going to be a guy until about last year, but he's had a lot of talent surrounding him. Rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins. But that's a guy that had a lot of talent surrounding his physical capabilities. Didn't really play in a great situation in Washington. 2020, the three dudes up top who now are all in good situations but are supreme talents. Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert. Jordan Love might have been able to succeed should he not have been drafted to a place that he could not immediately play. 2021, Zach Wilson might look a lot better than he did with the New York Jets if he was drafted to the 49ers. And of course, we're going to leave Trey Lance alone because Justin Fields and Mac Jones were the guys taken after him. I think they might look better in this offense, especially with the defense, than they do in their own respective situations. So while I bow down to the majority of what Matt Maiocco says, in this situation, to me, it's something that applies to just about every quote unquote talented quarterback that is taken at the top of the draft. And I know he was picked by Shanahan this offseason to come in and be the guy. And Maiocco also did note at the tail end of this, the wording made it clear that Darnold also might not be the most talented thrower of the football the 49ers have ever had. But the statement was more about his physical gifts. So the fact that he walked back his own statement or needed to clarify it less than 24 hours after giving it tells me that there's something more going on here, and we're not going to find out until probably training camp or even the preseason.
Well, I mean, yeah, when you say something might be the case, the other side is it might not be the case. I mean, that's what might means. Like we understand that, Matt. We appreciate that. But
that's the big J journalism in him right there.
But I mean, you are right. I mean, once this came out on Twitter and it just caught on like wildfire, um, he obviously there were a ton of people in his mentions, adding him, being like, "Oh my God, what the hell are you talking about?" He felt the need to clarify a little bit, and you're right. He did it at the end of the original quote as well, and he did it on Twitter later, and he did it on a column he wrote for NBC Sports Bay Area as well. So he obviously felt the need to backtrack a little bit, which I think is a good thing. And that maybe gives me a little bit of confidence, Evan, that I don't know, the 49ers don't feel the same exact way as what Matt Maiocco said. Again, I do think the biggest thing here is it's probably a little bit of a disconnect. You're right. When Matt Maiocco clarified, he said, "Oh, I meant purely from like a physical traits standpoint. I didn't mean he's anywhere near the best quarterback that the 49ers have had ever or have currently." But I mean, he's kind of your prototypical quarterback. I mean, he's taller than Brock Purdy. He's not, a statue in the pocket. He has some mobility. He has, some impressive throws under his belt. I mean, I remember there was one game the year after the 49ers lost in the Super Bowl. So that was the 2020 regular season. The Niners played in New York against the Jets. I think it was week 2. It was the week that Nick Bosa tore his ACL, if memory serves. They had those 2 games in New York at the Jets, at the Giants on the MetLife turf, and it just absolutely destroyed the 49ers. And there was one play that I can remember that will stick in my memory for the rest of my life that Sam Darnold made. He was facing pressure. It might have been Nick Bosa chasing him down before he tore his ACL. And I think he rolled to the right, spun back out to the left. And for a right-hander, rolling left is difficult because to throw, you kind of have to contort your body and throw like the opposite of the momentum in which you're running. And he put it on the money to a crossing receiver with the man draped all over him. And it was one of the more impressive throws I've seen a quarterback make, not just Sam Darnold, but any quarterback make against the 49ers in recent years. So the talent is there. He has shown it on occasion. It's just, far more often than not, he's made terrible mistakes. So I think that's probably more what Matt Maiocco was getting at. We're probably all overreacting just a little bit, but it is hard to see and hear a quote like that and not wonder what the hell is up, because that definitely raised some eyebrows. It did for me.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to sit here and badmouth Sam Darnold. I hope if he does get to start that he's successful, because we want the 49ers to be successful. And if he can get them back to the NFC Championship game and is forced to, I hope he does. But I do think people are making a little more of his season last year in Carolina, and it was pretty good. It was solid, especially compared to what he had been prior to. But I think people are making more of it than it probably needs to be. Um, Last game of the season, a must-win situation to try and get into the playoffs. Now they did win the game, but he was 5 for 15 with 2 interceptions. The week before that, statistically his best performance in a loss to Tampa Bay, which ipso facto might have essentially mathematically bumped them from the playoff situation. That was his best game. He threw for 340, had 3 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. The other side was he fumbled the ball a couple times. He coughed it up, and that may have also allowed Tom Brady to win that game and help the Buccaneers get in the playoffs. Like, I know that he was a solid quarterback last year for a team with not many weapons, but what I read from this, and you, I don't know if mouthpiece is necessarily fair, but he's definitely a voice for a lot of what the 49ers inside, I think, feel, because he's trusted. But when Maiocco says this about Sam Darnold, to me, it's a sign of don't be surprised. Look out.
Hmm.
If this guy is a starting quarterback week one, should Brock Purdy not be ready to go, don't be shocked. That's more so what I read from his comments as opposed to the literal, "Hey, he's the most talented thrower of the football, maybe, in franchise history." So that's kind of where, at least I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that's what I feel like he meant, as opposed to the hyperbole of whatever people are running with.
That's fair. And I can tell you from experience talking about this 49ers quarterback room, I will not be surprised because nothing can possibly
Yeah.
surprise me after the last, 16 months.